So, let me tell you more about logic. Christianity is not based on logic. It's not logical. So we cannot reason out why a virgin has to conceive without meeting a man. That defies logic. It is not logical. And so when Thomas says that, it says on the next verse, he said, unless I see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and put my hands into his side, I will not believe it. So for Thomas, he's saying, this is not logical. This doesn't make sense. So unless I see him with my own eyes and put my finger in his sides, I wouldn't believe it. Because in his mind, this is not logical. This is not logical. And so that's how Thomas is saying, these things is not logical. And so that's what Thomas was saying. And then after 8 days, next verse it says, after 8 days, his disciples were again inside, and Thomas with them, and then Jesus came, and again the doors being shut, and stood in the midst of them. Jesus was in, I'm missing something. Jesus, and the doors being shut, and stood in the midst, and said to them, peace be unto you. So the same way he showed himself from the rest of the disciples, Jesus is doing the same way to Thomas. Because Thomas is saying, this doesn't make sense. He wouldn't believe it. And so Thomas saying, unless I seen him, I wouldn't believe what you guys are saying. He said, you guys are my friends, you are members of my church, but this is not happening. But then after 8 days, so if we're counting 8 days,
of our friends and our loved ones who have been blessed in the last 6 days.
Praying the honor for his nation.
Are still coming. Please heal the sick, and please guide Papa as he delivers your message. And thank you for his wonderful day. In Jesus' name, pray.
One example is, now and then, I turn into somebody I am not. When loved ones or I undergo metamorphosis, we must try our best not to argue. It is best to get down on your knees and cry out to the Lord and pray to cast out the demon inside you. Brothers and sisters, when you see a person becoming angry and you begin to see things fly through the air, you know you're not wrestling against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against strong powers, against the ruler of the darkness of our present day, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly place. And when that happens, call upon God. Only God can deliver you. Amen. By the way, this was an only example of what could happen inside a household. And I don't think we see things flying across in our own homes. But in the movies, yes. I'm moving back to the story. The disciples all had a lot of problems, but only one that seemed to have it going on. He was a man of great potential, a man of resourcefulness. He has interpersonal skills. He has a keen business mind and contacts in high place. His name was Judas. Maybe at the time, Jesus selected his group. Jesus should have picked everyone that had Judas' personality. Another good thing about Judas was He followed Jesus without being invited to the group. So what was going on in Jesus' thoughts? Talk about dysfunctional group, huh? Imagine back then when people saw Jesus traveling around with his disciples. People probably said, look, there goes Jesus with a gang of losers. Jesus chose a bunch of messed up people. But when you look through the scriptures, precisely what's written, God is always using messed up people. Few people in the scriptures had it together. Abraham was old. Jacob was insecure. Leah was unattractive. Joseph abused, uttered. Gideon was poor. Samson was codependent. Rahab was immoral. David had an affair and all kinds of family problems. Elijah was suicidal. Jeremiah was depressed. Jonah was reluctant. Naomi was a widow. John the Baptist. I'm so glad God uses messed up people. And I'm happy. Do you know why I'm happy? It's because I'm pretty messed up myself too. If God can use these people I just mentioned, God can use us. Do you know why God uses messed up people? Because only messed up people can reach messed up people. It's a sad truth. In this world, there are a lot of messed up people. Most are pretty messed up. If this world did not have messed up people who even have it all together, will not understand the pain and struggles that other goes through. A simple explanation is we can only understand the pain and suffering of others to the degree that we have suffered. Someone who has been paralyzed from the waist down cannot understand the pain and struggle of a person with quadriplegia who is paralyzed from the neck down. The person who has sight cannot understand the pain and struggle of a blind person. The person who does not have cancer cannot say to a cancer patient, I understand. No, you do not understand. Unless you have been through the same struggle. One thing you can do is to help someone who is suffering by being with them by the side. That is the best way to help. Saying too many things. Have you had problems in your life? I'm pretty sure we all did. Ever feels insignificant? You feel withdrawn, inhibited, and anxious? I know what's like to have low self-esteem. And we all battled low self-esteem for many years. Have you ever experienced severe anxiety? I'm talking about where you feel worried, fear, phobia, and stress at the same time. And then you begin to lose your appetite. Well, not for me. For me, it's the other way around. More like stress eating. You start to have panic attacks and sleepless nights. Not sure if I have experienced that, maybe. And if you don't get over, you become depressed. When depression hits severity, you start contemplating suicide. That's not good. Have you ever been up to that point? I haven't, but instead, I say, God, take my life.